pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dana, will you take the roll, please?
Trustee Goldberg.
Present.
Trustee Hanky.
Here.
Trustee Ehrlich.
Here.
President Lamont.
Here.
Trustee Solly.
Here.
Trustee Salter. Trustee Salter.
I'm here. I didn't understand what you just said.
Most present and accounted
I
for.
was waiting for Hanson.
We have minutes of the August 12th meeting in your packet. Do you have a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve.
I second.
Any comments?
Are the microphones on? Can people-
Yes, they are.
Is that better?
Yes,
that
they.
better?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
That feels like they're on.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the August 12th minutes.
Motion to approve.
Some comments.
And comments?
So on page 6, and as far as the public comments, references to the term cell tower are fine, but in the consider Externet system discussion, the Wooters explains the status of a proposed cell node, not a tower, and it was a clarification on the location of the pole, not the tower, if possible. I'll leave that to council. And then not really sure about using the term on page 7 where it says council expressed frustration. I mean, that's sort of like we're doing this as a whole. If anything, maybe members of council expressed frustration.
That's good.
And that was it.
I'd say that's fair.
That's all I had.
I only had one thing, and it was also about the cell towers. Just when it was moved by Seltzer, seconded by Ehrlich, to postpone the consideration of Externet systems, on page 7, the very last thing, the one thing that was left out was the reason as to why we postponed it, and it was my understanding partly, it was because we were gonna have legal look into the ramifications of us not doing it.
So we're going to add that to the minutes? Okay. Okay, any other comments? All in favor of the amended minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public requests and comments. Got a lot of people here tonight, so we're going to try and whip through this quickly. We're going to start with 2 minutes and see what happens. So if you have a comment about something that's not on the agenda, come on up to the microphone and identify yourself.
Dana, do we have the 30-second? I'll be happy to help if we have it.
Bill, would you want me to comment that items on the agenda, comments for later?
That's what I said, if it's on the agenda, it's not part of public comments, wait for, but anybody have comments?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I do, and I think I came on a great night. My name is Robin Dillard Rusaw. I'm a resident of Beverly Hills, so I'm your neighbor. I'm also a planning commissioner there, but I'm here because I'm running for 46th District Court, which covers our community of Franklin, Southfield, Beverly Hills, Bingham Farms, and Lathrop. And I'm only really here to talk about a judicial forum that's coming up on this Thursday in the city of Southfield. It's going to be at the Southfield Public Library at 7, and it's just for information purposes only. It's for the general public. It's just so important to know our jurists in our community. So just wanted to share that information. Looks like I came on a very interesting night. I am going to stay and listen, but I just wanted to introduce myself.
Can you say the date and time again?
Yes, it's this Thursday, the 12th at 7 p.m.
Where?
It is at the Southfield Public Library, and it is being put on by the Oakland County Bar Association, as well as the League of Women Voters, the Oakland County Times, and the Oakland County Legal News. So it's just me and the other person. So just wanted to let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comments?
That's you.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Anne McNeil, 26360 Vincennes. I'm here tonight seeking information, actually a status report on a current major public works project, stormwater drainage and flooding in Franklin by engineers Hubble, Roth and Clark. This is a vital project for this village, yet it seems to be shrouded in secrecy. This council decided on no public meetings, hence we have no information. Hence I'm here to ask for a report. I have 3 questions and a closing statement. Question 1, what is the current status of this project? What has been done so far? Where has it been done? 2, this month marks the 4th year since I began communication with you regarding the flooding of my property from Evelyn Court, 14 Mile Road and other areas. I have always operated in good faith with all of you to resolve the problem. However, this council continuously tests and pushes the limits of my good faith by its secrecy and lack of transparency. What is going to happen to this project when 4 members of council and the village administrator leave? What is in place for this project to continue into next year and complete its mission? I'm sorry. Over these past 3 years, I've been told by this council to be patient. You're working on it. Well, I've been exceedingly patient with you over 3 years. And patience, though, is not a solution to my flooding issue. Transparency, communication that flows up and down in a feedback loop. And not just from me to you, but from you to me. And action from you are the solutions to my flooding issues. In closing, in November of 2023, a resident of Franklin, a young man from 13 Mile Road in Sunset, his name was AJ, he stood at this podium and he said to this village council, this was his closing statement, quote, the fundamental problem in our village is stormwater drainage, unquote. His statement remains true and unchallenged to this day. Let us all work together, nullifying this statement, and let us work together in the spirit of good faith and in the absence of fear. And I'm sorry I broke up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Stay up for a second. Don't we want to respond to this?
Your usual approach with these presentations here is to hear what somebody has to say and then you follow up on another time?
Okay. Well, we haven't, I just,
We will,
So,
I mean, that's a
Kathy,
bit of,
so,
but we have been working
Yeah,
on
I'm
this.
confused.
I wanna let you
Yeah,
know,
I'm
we have been working so hard on this. We've put a lot of time and a lot of money, and my understanding is that a lot of areas have been cleaned up, and so I don't wanna let that go without addressing.
That is wonderful to hear.
And I'm concerned to hear that you're still having flooding issues, because I thought your area was one of them.
Oh,
Under that
no.
same impression. I thought
It's
we paid
terrible, Kathy.
You're still
significant-
having issues.
I thought we paid significant money.
It's
to
getting
that
worse
stuff.
and worse. That's why I'm crying.
I'm confused.
So we
completely.
need to look really into
Completely
her
confused.
area in particular, because nobody, have other people come to you saying the flooding is continuing?
well, we just had one today that I brought to the attention of our administrator, and so we are pledging that we will follow up on
Just
your-
communicate with
We will
me.
follow up on your specific issue, and you will hear from our administrator and perhaps our new administrator, because this is, it's been a long time. It should have,
I'm working with you. I'm not against you.
we appreciate that.
appreciate.
Thank you.
I
So,
just want
Kathy.
to address the transparency issue. So, and I don't know if every meeting gets to be seen, but I have at least received at these council meetings, and I know that Nancy from Hubble Roth has come at least 3 times
At least.
and addressed us specifically on packages this thick of the ongoing reporting and investigating of all the various areas so that we have a full understanding of everything in the village, and then we were gonna tackle them one by one. So I am pretty sure there's a significant amount of data out there for you. that if you came into the village, you could obtain. It's thick and it will have your street and everything that they at least investigated and say needs to be done. That is available, that is public documentation. And then I would love to find out, because Evelyn Court, Franklin Court, that whole area there, I thought that was the number one area
It
we
was.
did first, in conjunction with the Carroll Street drain thing, that, and the cross-street culverts. I thought we've already paid significant money to do that, so if it hasn't been done properly, I'd like to,
So Ann's house.
I didn't even know that was done.
unless I'm totally
Yeah.
missing.
So-
something.
That's exactly my
The
understanding.
issues. with
Nobody's
Ann's house-
told me.
The issues with Ann's house, that her uphill neighbors have filled in the culverts, you know, with the new buildings, and some of the downstream ones have let them accumulate, which isn't something that we normally take care of. So I'm not sure Hubble Roth and Clark took
That
care of
would
that
be
issue.
part of what they're studying now, which is reporting to us. Part of that is driveways that have
They just aren't
purposefully
functioning, the culverts aren't
taken the
functioning.
culverts out and filled them,
Yeah.
blocking the, restricting the flow of water, and we know, and Mark
Yeah.
Zizo back there will speak to that that goes on all over the village, so.
David.
We're definitely investigating this, and I would love to get you that data.
David,
We
it
have
doesn't matter
definitely
what
been
you
trying
do.
to be
You just hit on something very important. It doesn't matter what the engineers do unless neighbours have functioning drains and ditches in this rural community. The water is going to keep coming to me.
Question.
And there is a drain. Even Hubble, Roth and Clark didn't know about it. It's on the corner of Vincennes and Normandy. It goes under the road to the west side of Normandy. So it goes from the east side of Normandy to the
We
west.
cleaned that.
Yeah, it receives no water because the drains and ditches on Evelyn Court don't function. They don't even exist in some neighbours' properties. They've filled them in because aesthetically they like it. Okay? We're a rural community. This is our circulation. This is our circulatory system. And I get it all.
No, you're absolutely right. We've had ongoing discussions and I've said this before, we've all said, at some point, the village had a ditch in front of every single house. It's how it was.
I've lived here for 37 years. I know my responsibility as a homeowner. I used to, when I was young, get out and dig those ditches. My landscaper does it now. I don't do it for me because it makes no difference. I do it for everybody downstream from me.
That needs to be addressed.
So, with the follow-up, can we get a member of council to also tag along on this? Just so that we have the visibility, because again, up until today, I don't know that any of us thought that this was an issue.
We thought it was taken
Yeah.
care of. We
100%.
didn't know, we haven't heard that it was a problem. We
And
thought
again,
we were
I
doing our
have,
job.
I have been believing you did nothing because I have no information. And I drove on 14 Mile Road the other day, and I think I might be, I saw the drain there, and it was almost completely covered in mud, filled with mud.
14 again.
And I made a statement, and it was to Susan Goldman, and I think she graciously had it cleaned, or the fairies cleaned it, because it's open now. But when I made that statement, Susan, wherever you are, did you do that?
I remember you talked about
Yeah,
that,
thank you, because it magically opened up. But I said to Susan, Susan, winter's coming, and I can't keep taking this water.
Some work has been done in that area. There's more to be done. The issue is
Can you put your address,
prioritizing the work.
your address again?
26360 Vincennes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Ann, for coming.
Thank you.
And sorry that you're experiencing that,
Thank you.
genuinely.
Any other public comments? Uh-oh. Here comes Rick David.
Good evening, Council. I'm here on behalf of the Franklin Public Library as an informational item to you and our voters in this community. On the November ballot, there will be a question affecting the library millage. 50 years ago, the citizens approved a 1 mil property tax for funding the library. 50 years later, that millage has been reduced due to Headley amendments and Headley rollbacks to under 0.6. The library board has asked and put on the ballot a question to increase the millage to 0.8 mils, not to the fully approved amount of 1, but to 0.8, to recover some funds, of which total about $90,000, to help fund our library. Just want to inform council of this action so they're not surprised when they see the question on the ballot, and I ask the citizenry to support our library and approve this minimal millage increase, the first one we've asked for in over 50 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. Dan Roberts, are you here? Still here? As everybody is aware, maybe you're not aware, a week or so ago was Dan's last day as chief of police. And we'd like to formally recognize his great work. Jen is here with him. And Dan, we have a small token of our appreciation. And we thank you very much for everything you've done for us in the past 12 years, right? 12 years. Yes, sir. Get it?
Yeah.
Did you bring donuts for us, by any chance?
I did not. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. Thank you very much. As I said last month, I've always enjoyed great support from the council, whether it's Franklin or Bingham Farms, and that really makes the job of the police chief a lot easier. So thank you all for that. It's been great. It's been a great run. It's time to retire, but it's been a great run. I know the department is in great hands. You guys hired a fantastic chief to replace me and Kurt Lawson, and then, Sergeant Wells is here and some of the other officers are here. I'm very proud that I had a hand in hiring or promoting, or both in some cases, everybody on the department. So I'm really happy about that. So if it turns bad, I guess you can blame me, but I won't care because I'll be retired. So, but thank you very much for this. This is great recognition. I certainly appreciate it.
Thanks. Reports of village officers and agents. Okay, Kurt. Kurt Lawson's our new chief of police.
I had to wait for the entourage to leave, He's got quite the following. He's really done an outstanding job the last 12 years. I've been around law enforcement for 30 years, and I can tell you, great leader. He did a fantastic job. As far as the police department over the last month, we have been a bit busy. So we had, of course, Music on the Green, we had the summer block party, and the Labor Day roundup. And as all of you know, we had beautiful weather, thousands of people coming down to the village. But I'm happy to report we had no law enforcement issues at all. Certainly my hat's off to the officers, the reserves, the fire department. We have such a great relationship with the fire department. And I think that really helps make things go really smooth, and it was this year. I want to say a special thank you to Fire Chief Tony Averbach, Sergeant Midlowski, and Sergeant Wells for their extensive operation planning for the Labor Day Parade. Obviously, a huge event. My understanding, this is one of the biggest Labor Day parades we've ever had, and we had no issues. So hats off to them, did a great job. And then finally, this is very important, I'd like to remind everyone that it is illegal to remove legally posted campaign signs. We've already had a couple issues. We've already opened up an investigation, and we certainly will investigate these, and we will send these investigations up to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office. So, 2 months until election, maybe we can not do that. That'd be great. And if you have any questions about the monthly report, I could answer them.
What was the attendance for Roundup from your perspective? Because we felt it was the largest ever.
Certainly thousands of people, but due to the fact that they're spread out, it's kind of difficult to tell.
Yeah, I mean, to ride in that parade and come around that corner And see that many people in our village it's mind-boggling.
I bought a lot of candy and I did not buy enough. I can-
Right?
I always buy more,
And
because it never ends.
it was the longest parade on record, as far as I know.
It goes all
It
the way
was
to the
nearly
church
an
now.
hour. We used to laugh about our 5-minute parade, and Charlie can speak to it, because he's the MC, and he runs out of stuff to say after 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, so.
But it
yeah,
was a
the
great
FCA
day.
Does a great job for that.
So thanks for the
Thank you.
good work you
Thank
guys
you.
Thank
did.
you, Chief.
Okay, is Chief Alverbach, Fire Department. Keep the exit clear, please.
Good evening, everyone. You have our written report. Chief Lawson already covered the Labor Day events and everything else. We typically will have approximately 50 runs per month. August, we had over 80. So it was a busy month. As we're rolling into the fall season, just a couple of reminders. The cider mill's open. The bees are out. Be careful with things you move in your yard. Be careful with the sodas you drink, especially if they're in a can. We've already had incidents like these. Be careful when the storms come and the power goes out, that you're not exposing yourself to carbon monoxide gas from your generators. And with reference to moving forward with the leaves coming down, Franklin does have an ordinance with reference to the burning of yard waste. It's yard waste only, not garbage, not construction materials. But be mindful of the ordinance and be mindful with its intentions, which is the safety of yourselves and your properties. Other than that, and pending your questions, that'll conclude my report.
One question, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Months ago, you were talking about hiring new firemen. How has the hiring progress been going?
It is going. With reference to bringing someone on, we haven't done that as of yet. We're trying to find the right person, and so we're still seeking that out. In terms of volunteers, though, we are I guess, in possession of 2 or 3 applications, and we're seeing how that goes with bringing folks on. But things are looking very good right now, and we'll try and continue to get that going. We noticed with the fire on Cheviot Hills, because of the need to supply tank water, the need of personnel and the need to get them there quickly, especially when establishing water supplies. So that's something the Fire Commission, which your representative is part of those discussions. We talk about that monthly to try and be able to not only have the appropriate people, but the appropriate number of folks. Cheviot Hills, though, we did leverage additional departments, which is great. The only downside of that is the nearest agency that uses tankers to shuttle water is at the northwest corner of West Bloomfield, and then moving west from there. So having that expertise locally is going to be that much more important. Sorry, long answer to a short question.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. Treasurer Lance.
Good evening, trustees and president. Please accept my written report in the capacity as the village treasurer. The bills list this month totals $50,645.50. Pretty quiet month for us. The amounts on the bills list are consistent with normal monthly spending. The expenditures are generally consistent with our budget. The bills list for this month includes a large entry of $6,725 as for painting the inside of the police department. We paid to U.S. Painting and Power Washing. The village has sufficient funds to meet its current and anticipated obligations, and the list of account balances in the package is as of September the 1st that we hold at First Merchants Bank. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
In your packet, you have a list of bills. We need a motion to approve the payment of $50,645.
Motion to approve.
I second.
Any questions?
Yeah, just a couple. This can wait for our portion, but They did raise, I saw the charge for the American Legal Publishing. When are we getting the results of that, or?
I emailed them a couple of weeks ago asking for a status update, and I have not heard back from them. I will
Okay.
follow up.
And then the other one is 827, Save a Tree Condition Assessment, $100. What goes into an assessment?
The person from Save a Tree comes on site, they do an analysis of the tree. Sometimes it requires taking a sample from the tree to see what the condition is, but we're paying for a certain amount of travel time, time on site, and their report.
And when it goes to somebody's residence, they should do that.
Right, so when we pay for it, it's for a tree in the right of way.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I just had one. So, the police department generator that was repaired, that's an older one. That's not what we just bought
Right, that's
recently.
the
Okay, good.
And in fact, the question of whether or not that should be replaced was presented to the technician that came out and looked at it, and he's recommended that we hang on to it.
Okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't one of those new ones, or that wasn't bought when we bought our new ones. Okay.
No, it's been here for a while.
Okay.
It's almost as long as Dan.
Any other questions? All in favor of approving the bills list, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Special reports. I got to echo what several other people said about Roundup. Kathy, great job organizing it. Bicentennial activities this year have been super. I've had a great time. Hopefully all of you have participated in more coming. The 28th of September, a pancake breakfast at the fire station. The scouts will be cooking the pancakes, and following that, we'll do the Build the Scarecrow event at the Krieger Barn. So, and then November, there's a style show at the church, sponsored by the Questers, and just still a lot more to come. So watch the Dana's emails, the Historic Society website. But it's been fun, been a good year. Cool.
And I'd like to also add that all of those things that you just mentioned, those dates should be posted on our sign out front here. Oh, we don't have it yet, but we will have it, the electronic sign. It's been a very busy summer here in the village, and we should all be proud of how beautiful the village looked and all the great activities, all family-friendly. And I, for one, am very pleased with the response we've gotten from everyone in the village and outside the community as well. So, job well done to everybody that's been involved.
Okay.
And the only thing I want to say is I want to thank everybody who volunteered, everybody who participated, everyone who helped out for a Roundup. You guys, it was the best Roundup because we had so much participation, so many kids, so many adults. Everybody really came together this year, and it felt really good. And I thank you all.
Any other, council?
Yeah, just one quick thing on 13 Mile, the north side ditch. There's very large logs that have been stacked up in the ditch itself. I don't know if that was us or some random person, but it's definitely going to be a flooding issue.
What part of 13 Mile?
It is, well, it's east. It's pretty close to Telegraph. Yeah, so.
Check it out.
Yep. Okay. Interesting placement.
David?
Yeah, so Susan has, and Dana have pointed out that in our recent waste contract, we didn't specifically, although we had discussions with Vince here on the record, and he acknowledged that they would continue with the garbage, or the garage side garbage pickup for those residents that have requested it and paid for it in the past. We didn't specifically address it in the contract, and now in trying to get it implemented with them, historically, GFL billed those residents directly. I think it was like a monthly charge. Priority now does not want to handle that. They want to push that onto us to bill and collect from our residents, and they just charge us, which I don't think any of us are going to be big fans of. So I would like to kind of reopen just dialogue with them to look at an amendment to the contract to specifically address it. I was thinking that if, you know, as to help them, if they are agreeable, which I hope they will, to handling it. I think Susan and I estimated like 50 residents that might do this, that instead of having it be paid monthly, that it go to something like quarterly. Or if they push back, you know, at the least biannually, just so that their billing is down. And obviously, if you, I think quarterly would be best, so if you move in that quarter, you're talking about maybe a month or two's worth. So just wanted to know if we should, you know, if it's okay that we have Roger get in touch with Vince and clarify that. I spoke with him, he said, you know, he would be open to a discussion on it, but just wanted to point it out.
Great, we can do that.
All right.
Sharing with council and with sharing with the public, I met with Chief Lawson earlier. I heard complaints from residents, both on 13 and 14 Mile Road, just from like vehicle noise, you know, guys, or not guys, but people taking off their sports cars, you know, pretty significant, you know, for our quiet nature of Franklin Village, there are people who, once they get out of their own subdivision, take off like a bat out of heck.
Yeah, I hear that.
And, you know, so Chief acknowledged that, and he's going to work on that with his team.
Any other council reports? Roger, Administrator.
Getting into this transition, let me back up a second. As an alum of the Franklin Elementary School, I enjoyed the opportunity to visit the school, ran into some folks that were actually in my class, and we wound up spending a couple hours with them out on the grass, eating stuff. So that was kind of fun. I enjoyed that a lot. I did formally submit my resignation today. I just want to emphasize that this has been, for me in my lengthy career, a very special place, and I explained this to you when I applied in the first place, that as a native of the village, it's been really interesting to have an opportunity to have a role in what it is today, and to see what all of you folks do to make it happen. That's been really, really cool. So to the extent that I've had an opportunity to help out there, I'm very, very pleased. I'm going to miss you. My expectation is that the Thursday following next month's meeting will be my last day. That's what the calculation is. My contract says that if I'm going to resign, I need to give you 30 days' notice. And you may not. Mark it up.
We have no flexibility where this is concerned, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, it seems to me you've moved right ahead on coming up with this.
We are
So-
efficient as a council, are we not?
Yeah.
Are we your favorite council ever?
You're my favorite in the last 5 years.
Answer.
But, so we did want to make sure we had a fair transition period, so you could share status and things like that with our new administrator. So that has played out as planned.
Yep, that works. So were a couple of other things that I had in mind to share with you, and they've just gone pew, right out of my head. So
With regard to our new administrator, have you started working on a onboarding process, things you want to share with her?
what she's, that's something else I need to mention. My understanding is that her first day is the 16th. I'm going to be doing grandpa stuff in Illinois that weekend and will not be back until the end of the day on the 16th.
So she's going to have the keys to the castle all by her own.
Well, she won't be by herself.
No, I know
that's
that.
for Sure.
Okay.
And she has folks that know her well, so.
Yes.
I'm sure that'll be fine. The other thing I needed to mention is that this has been a tough couple of years in terms of brothers and sisters, and I got word this morning that my sister-in-law passed away in Traverse City. And I don't know when exactly those services will be, but I need to put you on notice that that could be any time in the next week to 10 days. So that's that one struggled. Questions, anybody?
I just want to, on behalf of the Personnel Committee, we were charged with the responsibility of finding a replacement for you, tell you how much we appreciate you and how much we appreciate your contributions. I remember the day that you came here, and we had a lot of issues, and you've been helpful in resolving them. There are always issues, but you've done a great job, and we appreciate you, and I want to thank you for your service.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And just one real quick thing to answer something that Ann brought up. And intentionally, we did have the overlap in the administrators, because I know you had acknowledged kind of how our project's going to be transitioned, and it was very intentional to do it that way. So as we think about kind of priorities of onboarding and just knowledge sharing, let's make that a priority so that it doesn't slip through. Of course. Thank you, Roger.
Planning Commission, Stuart Wooters.
Good evening, trustees. Tough act to follow with Roger there, so I did not put in my resignation, but though some of you may want it. No, to be all honest, we've been grateful to work with Roger the last several years, so I'm glad to work with you again in another week, and then as we transition, looking forward to working with the new administrator. Just a few points of items that the Planning Commission is working on, and I see in our agenda there's also another one that we need to resurrect. But the main points is we were planning on having a public hearing for a new cellular ordinance amendment to get it in line with the state, but also put in provisions that we have control over that the state doesn't necessarily regulate, that allow us to have a clearer understanding of what we can do when we have these applications for cellular coverage. I know a lot of people are here for that tonight, not necessarily for our ordinance, but for the accident application. So that is something that we are concerned with as a planning commission, and we are trying to address and see what we can do to help our neighbors. We also started discussions ramping up again, our discussions on pathways and dusting off some of our previous conversations. And then also, Trustee Seltzer mentioned it earlier. We're also working towards this, updating the sign ordinance. One of the key items that we're trying to, one of the key groups and key goals that we have as a planning commission is to work closely with the different organizations that work in Franklin downtown, and including the historic district and the historic commission. And so we want to work with them to make sure whatever we provide or recommend, it would be consistent with the village and the historic nature of the village, because we know how cognizant we are as villagers of the 200 years that we've existed. We want to make sure that we inform our neighbors, but also maintain a sign that looks in place. In addition, Planning Commission is trying to improve our communication with the village. As you know, we've often want more like this in our meetings. We do not get that. But at the same time, one of the initiatives we're looking into is to have online communication for our meetings. So we've been looking into that. Hopefully, if things go well, we can set up a model that might serve council as well. But we'll be try and be a trial for that for you. So any questions?
May I ask a question? Not to rush you, but I've been pressing on the signage issue for the better part of a year. Do we think we might have a proposal to present at next month's council meeting?
At next month's council meeting, I believe that we should have a direction to give to council. So
just to summarize it, though, we're trying to...
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to take that back. I'm sorry. We need to have a public hearing after we so we can have direction for council. Then we can pursue it. So it wouldn't be next month. It would be the following, at the earliest. So go ahead, David.
And could you summarize the intent? I'll start with my conclusion, and then I'll provide context. Could you summarize kind of what you're looking to do with the sign ordinance? And the reason that I'm asking that question is if the goal is to bring signs into, to bring them into alignment with the historic district, right, and create that consistency, is it the Planning Commission or the Historic District Commission that would be most appropriate? Or is the intention that because they would basically be appeal-based, or somebody would have to do some type of a review, that we're trying to be proactive?
So we have already been discussing things with the Historic District about the sign ordinance, the Historic Commission about the sign ordinance. They are not in favor of changing it for a digital sign. So we are trying to find out what we can do to make sure that they are still appeased, even though we do need to plan on going forward with an ordinance modification.
Gotcha.
So we want to make sure that they're included. We don't want to override them. We want them to feel part of this process, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So there is a meeting this Wednesday for Historic, and I believe it's on the agenda to discuss with them the proposals for their proposals. Standards. Yep. So, any other questions?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thanks, Stuart.
Main Street Franklin, Susan?
So as you guys know, we just had our block party. It was amazing. We had at least 615 people who RSVP'd, and we had way more people than that out there. I would say 700 to 800 people at least. We appreciate everybody's contributions, activity, going, having fun. It was great. It was probably the best that we've had. I want to shout out to Pam Migliori. Without her, we would not have a block party. So she is awesome. We pulled a profit, which is always a good thing too. So I'm very excited about that. I'm already looking to next year and learning from what we've done. We're going to get more sponsors and move forward. So if you guys ever have suggestions too, we're open to that.
How did
So
the retailers do?
they did well. The only one that did not was Event Bliss because they are up in the back. So we've got to figure out something better for them.
But on a percentage increase basis?
Yeah, they said they increased it. They saw more traffic than they had. So it was better than it has been. So
Great.
yeah, so very exciting. Very happy about that. Pete, so you know we've been doing the patronicity for the Pickering Barn. We're down to 11 days left on that. We only have 7,600 that has been collected. There is a couple, it's probably going to be in CBS News Detroit. Did you see that? Okay. We will be doing a story in the Eagle, so our PR people are trying to do the best they can to push it through. So, you want?
I guess I would just add, you know, we're hopeful that our larger sources of funding are going to come through. We'll be able to meet our goal. And that through a benefactor in Bloomfield right now, we're starting to take it down. And this dismantling, we do have an extended time frame. We have until the spring to take it down, but we're hoping to have it disassembled and stored before that with private funds as basically an insurance that it will happen. Other than that, you know, we hope you'll consider some of the spots that our planning commission discussed here in the village. The possibility of the Krieger campus location or perhaps another location on the village land. You know, the possibilities for an event barn or a bigger space here that would allow more services and uses, we think could really be a positive thing. So essentially that's it. If there's no questions on it.
Any questions for Main Street?
Thanks.
Good job, Susan.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thank you. Says Personnel Committee.
Oh, all right, so I'll speak on behalf of the Personnel Committee, which consists of Mark Hankey, David Solly, and myself. We worked the better part of a couple of months interviewing candidates once we were aware of the date and timing of Roger's departure and retirement. We narrowed that field down, and we had a lot of applicants. I think there were 20-plus applicants in the process. And we narrowed that field down to 5 people who we felt were worthy of additional consideration and met privately with each of them. And we had a really great system that Mark created of interview questions. There was a series of 8 questions that we felt were important to glean from the candidates how they would deal in an environment like this. This is a very unique community, as we all know, and there's a special skill set for dealing with constituents that we have and vendors and all of the various support mechanisms here. So we took turns asking the questions of the applicants, and we graded them on a scale. And at the end of the interview, after we were satisfied that they had each responded accordingly, we tallied up the scores, and that helped us make a determination. And there was one candidate that shined beyond our hoped for expectations, and frankly, we're very, very pleased to announce that we had selected someone known to this community who has worked for us in the past, had made a lot of contacts and friends in the community, and we felt very strongly that this individual, among other things, would hit the ground running. She's passionate, she's enthusiastic, she's driven, she's expert. We saw that when she worked for us previously for Main Street, and then she went away for a couple of years and excelled at her career in the city of Troy, much different city than the village of Franklin, became an assistant city administrator in a very short period of time, and we were very lucky that she would consider coming back to the village of Franklin. So we did secure an approved contract, and Megan Schubert is here tonight. If you just want to stand and say hi to everybody. Megan is our new village administrator starting next week, and she will work in tandem with Roger over the next 4 weeks and pick up where she left off and then some. And we're just very happy to have you back.
Thank you, thank you. I'm definitely looking forward to being back and working with the village, and I see lots of familiar faces and lots of new faces, but I'm really excited to be back with this great community and see what we can do.
Welcome back. I have nothing else.
Real quick, I just got notified whether or not the streaming is working right now.
It's not.
Okay. Just wanted to call that out.
Are we recording though? Can we?
It's recording. It's recording. It's just not live streaming.
So just a brief follow-up. So thank you, Mike, for those nice comments about how the process worked. This, we want to make sure that the interview process was fair, equitable. We asked, try and pick the questions that we felt mattered most to the village and the needs that we have for it. And without a doubt, Megan was far and away the choice for the village. I have the utmost confidence Megan can hit the ground running and make a difference. So we welcome her to the village.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, old business. Consider the Exonet Systems application. We've been dealing with this one for a couple of years now. Gone back and forth. I guess the state law preemption of what we can do really limits our ability. You know, I know most of you want to talk about this tonight. What I want to do is let council members, if they have comments, talk, and then we'll listen to the crowd and go from there, so.
Is a representative from Extranet here?
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, great.
Right.
Good evening, everybody. Several of you are familiar faces. I don't know if you remember, but I probably go back longer with the cell tower issues than any of you do. I was actually the attorney that worked with the village in probably 2000 when we had a lease about putting a large tower behind the police station. The village actually entered into a lease, and then we had the zoning came about. Residents protested. Just like we haven't changed that very much. The village made a decision to then work on the small cell side. You know, the carriers through companies like Extranet, who was my client, built out infrastructure on existing poles to hopefully create and solve some of that catch-22. But unfortunately, as you grow these systems and stuff, you are going to end up in situations where you don't have infrastructure to use. And that's, I think, what's creating a different situation here. All these folks drive by Extenet nodes and other nodes on poles all throughout Franklin already. This is the first situation where it's come as a standalone pole. We ran into this situation in Bloomfield Township several years ago. It's very similar in facts to this. It was actually just prior to the Small Cell Act that I think you guys have looked to Peter for. So it's not uncommon. You know, everybody wants to use existing structure. You do, they do, we do. But you get to the point where you're growing your network and the coverage is such. Everybody in this room, despite their protest, I bet has a cell phone. We're all part of the problem. You know, we're the ones who drive by every day. We're the ones who use the data. We're the ones who drive this system and drive that growth rate of this system. So with that said, I don't want to spend a lot of time recapping where you've gone. The McKenna report it is a very good report. It kind of gives you the chronology of how we got here. Bottom line is the Planning Commission in July authorized 3-to-1 recommendation to this body to approve this. And then I understand some issues that come before with Peter. I do want to make a couple points though before I sit down. One is Extenet's been a very, very good citizen in Franklin this time. They've moved this site 3 times at people's requests, at working with the road commission. And so they have done their part in trying to create a much better solution for the village. The other thing is I think your folks are going to come up and talk. I would remind you that under the Telecommunications Act of 1996, the one area that this body cannot take into account for the purposes of making any decision when it comes to wireless, whether it's small cell, big towers, or whatever, is the health effects of those towers. So I would ask you to curtail that from your any record that you take relative to that, just because it's prohibited by federal law. If anybody has an issue with that, the FCC is the one you go to. But they set the rules for health effects, not any individual council, city, state. It's all federal. So I would ask that you be mindful of that. And the other thing, too, is I'm not going to go into the Small Cell Act that was passed in 2018. But the bottom line is if you look at that act, Extenet is in full compliance with it. They're putting in a utility pole. It's not a cell tower, folks. It's not 100 feet in the air. It's a 40-foot wooden utility pole, just like there are all around 13 Mile Road already. So we're adding something that is very consistent with what is already there. So with that, I do want to introduce a couple people with me. Chris Friedrich is Extenet's principal RF engineer. So if there was really a technical question, he's here to answer that tonight. And from my office is Ken Kalisic, who's hiding around here somewhere. And he's done some of the background to help me out on tonight. So with that said, I would also ask that after you listen to the residents, I would ask that I be given the opportunity to come back up, if that's all right.
We would appreciate that.
Before you sit down, I want to take first. I want to be first.
Okay.
What is the purpose of this poll? What is the purpose? What are you trying to achieve? Just in my own.
Absolutely. The purpose of this poll is to, first of all, let's level set a little bit. Extenet is an infrastructure and a system provider for the wireless carriers. Those wireless carriers are Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Dish now. So they provide that small cell infrastructure and then provide a pathway for them to move that signal as much as someone would be a tower owner and carriers. T-Mobile goes on a cell tower. So that's what Extenet does. So what's driving this site, this particular site, is a request by T-Mobile to Extenet that they need to improve their coverage in that area.
Again, I've been told that it's a node system and that this node is important, not so much because of the community around it, but more to connect nodes.
No.
Is that not true?
It's not about connecting nodes. One of the fallacies with cell towers is they think they talk to each other. They really don't. What you have is a distinct umbrella of coverage, and so even that cell node is actually providing coverage for that area. That little antenna that you see on top of your telephone poles and utility poles around the village, that's covering a very small area. And that's the trade-off you make when you don't get a big tower, is that a big tower covers a much larger area, mile, 2 miles. But when you do the small cell piece, it's expensive, but you have to put those nodes much closer together because they're way lower powered than a cell tower. Their coverage is a much more limited distance. And if you think about it, it's only at 40 feet. So you're not getting that height piece of it.
And with it being of limited coverage, is there plans for more cell towers around Franklin to be placed?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't call it a cell tower.
Sorry, small cells.
But yes, I'm not gonna lie to you. Is there plans? No, not right now. But I'm telling you right now, you're burying your head in the sand if you don't think this is the last of the issue. Because when you make that decision to go this way, and the industry continues to grow at 35%, you're putting more apps on your phone, you're doing more stuff. We're not even talking about intelligent cars or anything like that that are going to be using signals along the road. The answer is simply yes.
So what would you imagine in 5 years, 10 years? What do you imagine around Franklin? How many poles would you imagine being placed?
I don't know.
Just give me a guess.
I'm not even going to guess. I don't know. Because you've got a lot of utility poles. A lot of this stuff goes on utility poles. So I can't tell you how many are on utility poles right now.
How many are you guessing in the next year? Like, if you could say in the next year, because I heard that there was one being maybe considered at Carroll and Wellington, for example, and maybe one being considered somewhere else. So are there any being considered right now?
Chris, is any of them a standalone?
I don't know yet. Again, I'm a consultant. They're having me look at this location. Could there possibly be some in the future? Of course. But again, the one thing that he left out about Extenet is that Extenet doesn't choose to build these on their own.
You're told by T-Mobile.
They're told by, unless they have a need and a contract from the carrier, they don't go around placing small cells. So, and unfortunately, the carriers are very secretive with their networks and how they operate, how they perform. We
need to talk to T-Mobile
It's
about
more of
that.
a need to know. They'll come to us and they'll say, we need you to find a spot on 13 Mile Road. That's it. They don't say why. You know, having worked for T-Mobile, I used to work for them many years ago. I understand, I can speculate why. Coverage is a problem in Franklin. There's not a single person in this room that will say they have fantastic coverage in Franklin everywhere because it's bad. And they are trying to enhance the coverage so that.
Only bad for T-Mobile. But anyways, never mind. Let me ask another question. I have another question to ask. And my question is, because the people, for example, around this pole do not want this pole, they don't feel the need for more coverage in this vicinity. There is not a person in that entire whatever radius that you're going to be covering with that pole that want this pole. I understand that one of the purposes of the pole is to connect 13 Mile Road so that people driving down 13 Mile Road get better coverage. Is there a possibility that if you must put in this pole, there can be a directional node put in so that it does not impact the houses around and only shoots down 13 Mile Road, therefore helping the purpose of getting people driving down 13 coverage without impacting the homes?
Why would you want to do that?
Because none of the homes want it in the area, none of the homes care for it, they don't need it, they don't want it, and they're gonna all tell you that.
Well, I'm sure they will, but that's not the way the systems work.
But can they do it anyways? Is that a possibility?
No.
Why not?
Because it's a system that covers a range. It will cover the homes. Somebody may move into that neighborhood that has a T-Mobile phone that would really like coverage there. okay? The fact that they may have Verizon or AT&T and their phones may or may not work, that's fine, but that's not how this gets decided. And that's exactly, if you want to go there, that's exactly why the state passed the act. Just so we wouldn't have to argue in every jurisdiction as to whose neighborhood is being the most impacted. And that's why they did it. And you can see how difficult this would be. I talked to you in Franklin, I talked to someone else in Birmingham, I talked to someone else in Bloomfield. It's all the same. I mean, I appreciate these people not wanting it. I value the right to protest. But if I move that site, which is probably what they all want to do.
Even to move it, just make it directional so you get your traffic covered on 13 Mile Road.
You can't advertise it that way.
First of all, we don't advertise it that way anyway. Second of all, I have no direction of ever doing that and just making it a two-way system rather than a circumference system. And I don't believe that any wireless carrier would do that. The only time they do that is on the border into Canada, so you don't shoot into Canada, so you don't cross border in jurisdictions like that. So the answer to your question is no, they won't do that. T-Mobile will not sign up for that, for limited coverage, because there are people, they may not be here, but there are people in that neighborhood that have T-Mobile phones that will be very grateful that that's there.
Nobody will have T-Mobile phones if they don't have coverage, they'll choose a different carrier.
That's your opinion.
I understand.
Was this tower only used by T-Mobile or also by the others?
Let's,
Okay, are you?
I'm
good?
done,
Okay,
sir,
let
and
us-
I'd like to come back up when everybody's done.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Council members, you?
Anybody else have a quick question or anything?
I think it's important that we let our
Yeah.
constituents speak their piece, but I'm grateful to have you
Yes,
here.
thank you.
To
Thank you.
remind us of what the actual finality of this is.
Any, David?
No, I mean, but if
Open
you
it up.
open it up,
We're
let
ready
us.
to- okay.
let's
2
hear it.
minutes, everybody.
Let's, we gotta use the 2-minute rule
We
since
gotta
there's,
renew.
but, Dana, you ready? Okay, very good. Okay,
Hi, Kat Phillips, 31265 Woodside Drive. And also, I am grateful that you're here, because we appreciate you being here, honestly. And I appreciate you all giving this consideration, knowing that the motion to move forward was to look into legal ramifications of denial. So I haven't heard from you guys what your decision was based on your legal counsel with Peter, but I just want to let you know that we've got almost 400 signatures, passionate residents who do not want this pole. And we also, I provided a petition for you that gives you legal denial capability, okay? So you can deny this pole based on the points that we made in the petition, and we'd like you to seriously consider that.
Didn't get anything, by the way.
I handed it out last meeting, so sorry about that. I can go into this if you like, but I'm on the clock, so I want to be careful here. So I also want to let you know that we're acting in good faith. We're acting on behalf of our community. You asked us to provide you community voice for opposition, and we did that. And we did that on a massive scale, almost 400 signatures. This petition can be denied based on the issues with sightlines. I have the Michigan statute right here. An authority may deny a completed application for with a location of the cell pole for materially interfering with sightlines or clear zones for transportation or pedestrians. We established that with the Road Commission. They agreed to our point of view on that, and I'd like to suggest that that is a point that we can deny this application should you choose to do that. We also understand that you have to look at the legality. I actually talked to my attorney who's in New York. This is his subject matter, he's a subject area expert, and he said that the ramifications would be minimal. You would not incur, there'd be no legal fees, there would be no the ramifications would be minimal. If you denied the poll and they decided to sue, the only cost would be to the village would be probably Peter's fee for defending the denial of the application. If we denied it based on Michigan statute, it would be an approved denial. So we're in a pretty good spot here.
Okay.
And we're also...
You want to wrap it up, please?
Okay, oh yeah, I am wrapping it up. Okay, so I just wanted to say that consulting my subject area expert, who can, if you would like, he can support us here in Franklin too.
And I did provide that in a letter through Stuart to Peter. He does have Robert Berg's phone number, so thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Shoki Kanja. I live on Woodside, 30535. Bought the property in 2000. Been living there as a dream come true house to live in a village. I come from a similar village in Iraq, and this is a true dream come true to be in Franklin Village. In 2000, I built 2 small pillars at the entrance of my driveway, only to be told couple of weeks later, they're hazards to the driver on the street, and this is a side street. Please take them down. I was forced to take them down, being hazards. 3 years ago, I received a letter indicating that boulders, landscape boulders that I have along my grass, few feet inside, have to be pushed back another 10 feet simply because they were hazards to the drivers on the small street where the speed limit is 25. Can you imagine what this tower, how hazards gonna be on 13 mile, higher speed, one way on both directions? This is ridiculous. I'm seriously thinking if this gonna be installed, I'm gonna sell my property and move somewhere else where I can enjoy my dream. Thank you.
Paula. Dana?
Dana.
Okay, so I have a map up here, Woodside Drive, I guess you all know that. And I guess my questions are for the Extonet gentleman. And so, do you want, can you see it or do you want to see a sheet? Okay, all right, so if you look at Inkster to Woodside, where they're proposing, have you changed the spot since it was supposed to be in the triangle? And now I spoke with the road commission and he said this morning, or actually said on Friday, that you had planned on moving it to the other side. But is that the case or is it still in the triangle?
It's still in the triangle.
Let you do your presentation and we'll respond.
Okay, so I want to know where it is. And if it is in that triangle or across the street, it's approximately 459 meters from Inkster to Woodside. Now, I know in the past you have said that your system radiates 1,000 feet on each side. So you've got a radius of 1,000 feet, if that is correct. So if it is correct, and then you have Roberts all the way down from Woodside to Roberts is 1,387 meters. So then it's not actually, and again, I don't know the specifications of your equipment. I'm only going by what you said. That would actually not even be enough unless another pole is going there. So we are proposing, can't we put this pole equidistant between the two? And then it would be 993 meters from Inkster and 849 meters from Roberts. So we understand that you need to put up the pole. I understand that. But can't we come to some kind of a compromise where we could move? Can't we move it down? That spot has it does not have a house in front. It doesn't have a house in, the pole obviously is right by 2 homes. And if you go across the street, you're right in front of this gentleman's house. So it's a horrible placement. And if it's down the street, it's not in front of anybody's house. And you actually have 3 spots down that street within that area. The altitude is the same. The altitude of Woodside is 245 meters, and the altitude of that yellow pin is 245 meters. So we can't say the altitude won't work. I'm just proposing, can't we move it down? And that's, I sent you that information. It wasn't quite in this spot. I have been driving up and down, trying to make sure that, and measuring on Google, trying to make sure that it's not in front of anybody else's house and that we're not throwing somebody else under the bus. And I know there's always someone who's going to complain, but if we can get in a spot where it's not in front of anyone's house or behind anybody's, I think that at least we won't have anybody complaining about it and you'll have your tower. No, it's not a tower, it's a small cell. And just so you know, one thing that I was very surprised at, and I don't think everybody realizes, if you look at the yellow dots, those are all poles that are up on Inkster, and I'm assuming they're gonna end up having your little hardware on it. Obviously, the Inkster pole is up. I see the wires have already run, and then you have all these other ones on Inkster. That's the yellow. The blue are all the cell towers or small cells that are already functioning and up. And then we have our Woodside and our proposed spot. So I'm asking you, and all our citizens are asking you, to please help. I know that you've moved it before, but we're the ones that have been complaining, and we're the ones that have been working on this, and I've been trying to get information and nobody will talk to us. So, we met with the Planning Commission, we met with the Road Commission. He said he can move it, doesn't make any difference to him, he'll approve it, as long as it's within their specifications. We understand that as well. So that doesn't seem to be a problem.
You want to
So
wrap it up?
that's it. Yeah, I'm just asking,
Thanks.
please move that pole. Thank you.
All right.
Are you guys gonna answer that, or are you waiting for all? You wanna wait for everybody?
Oh, yeah. Any other comments? Is that it?
Rick's gonna come in defense.
All right,
Let's don't fight.
come on, kids.
I'm just coming up here to say that I don't want it. I
Gotta
do
pull-
not.
you
I
gotta
have-
pull your
No, no,
microphone.
hold the microphone.
I don't want to. I have excellent service, and I understand that they're supposed to go down Inkster. Why can't we see if the ones on Inkster work before we put something on Woodside? Because in all these meetings, it seemed like West Wellesley was the problem area. And the ones on Inkster by a golf course will probably solve the problem. We don't need to have another one by us, because nobody on Woodside has a problem. And I understand that once you put this cell tower or whatever, a pole, then you can put anything you want on it. So once T-Mobile is on there, then AT&T can come, then Verizon. That's my understanding. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's my thoughts.
Thank you.
Norma.
Thanks.
Rick David on Wellington Road. I want to thank council for taking this on as a challenge to find the service that we need for our citizens. You all know, I've said repeatedly about the health issues, and health and safety required a good signal. You did a study of the signal strengths. My residence had no strength from any signal, any carrier. Hopefully some of the towers you're allowing to go up will address that issue. But it's a health and safety matter. Watching the people protest, obviously the people that object will show up. There are a lot of people that want service. They want it done, and they're not here. So let's not ignore those folks either. This is really, I got a transformer on my property on a pole. I want that taken down because that's in my way. I don't want to see that. But it's there to serve myself and other citizens. That's what it's about, serving each other in the community. The NIMBYism, it's pretty strong. And I'm sad to see that in this community. And I hope that we will jointly understand that we want the service, we all use the service, it's got to get done. And you've been very polite, you've been very helpful in listening to the citizens, but you have a decision to make, and we've got to provide service of this capability to our citizens. Thank you very much.
Takes a minute. Albert Ludwig, I live on Garden Way, and I'm on the Planning Commission. And when we approved this at the Planning Commission, I agreed to meet with the people on 13 Mile Road to look at the exact location that they were proposing to see if we could find a better location. So we had a meeting there, and they showed me exactly where they had a stake in the ground where the pole was proposed to go. And we looked at the surrounding vegetation, and
I suggested, and they agreed, that it could be moved further back from 13 Mile to where it's going to be basically right in line with the other utility poles that are already on the north side. So from a safety standpoint, as far as cars driving into it, it's not going to be anywhere near an issue. That's definitely not an issue. From a vision blocking, nobody's going to see it because it's just like the rest of the poles. So as far as moving it a half a mile down the road, whether that would work for them or not, I have no idea. But as far as that particular location that they were looking at, I think they got the best spot now because they moved it back about 10 feet. So.
Hi, I'm Todd Mong. My wife and I are here. We're right there at the corner of Woodside and 13, right where a lot of this has been proposed, right? My only comment right now is going to be about the actual status of what's going on, because they just last Wednesday and Thursday put in and pulled the conduit for the internet, or I'm sorry, they pulled conduit for a fiber connection. And they said they were working for Extenet. So it almost looked like the prep work is done as if this has been approved, they're moving forward, and there's a box at the corner buried, it goes down 6 feet, and they pulled the orange conduit into that thing, and the box itself is not bothering us, right? It's flat, it's right there at the corner, right by where the street sign is, not causing any issues with sight lines or anything like that. My only question is what's going on, because it almost looks like it's a fait accompli right now, that it's going in, doesn't matter whether you guys approve it or anything else happens. It looks like the project's moving forward because the conduit's pulled in. I have pictures, I can show you the boxes there. The orange conduit runs down was it Rosemont? It's like 600 feet, and they've got the two orange conduits coming out of the ground, tied to the pole, ready for fiber to be pulled. So I'm just kind of curious if we can also get, when you're back up, we can find out what's going on, because it looks like it's going in, no matter what happens here tonight. So
Is that on the north side or south side?
it's on the south side. There are white boxes painted on the side there. There were like 5-6 trucks. The horizontal drilling
Well,
thing was in
hopefully,
there.
I can address that issue here in a couple minutes.
So,
Okay?
I
Great.
appreciate everything else everyone else has done. The level of detail is fantastic, right? So I don't have anything more to add from that standpoint.
Okay,
Just-
thanks. Anybody else?
Of course, I'd like to thank you for all the service that you do for us.
Could you
I am.
speak up a little bit?
I thank you for all the service that you do for us.
Thank you.
And sorry for my shades. I had dilation. My eyes are dilated. That's why I have shades. I am Shoki Kanja's wife. My name is Miad. I live on 30535 Woodside Drive. As he mentioned, we have been at that location for 24 years. This is our second time being uncomfortable where we live. Actually, we immigrated from Iraq. We were kicked out of our homes, out of our comfort zone by our government. However, this is the second time someone else will decide where we go, what we do with our life, and where should we live. Why should T-Mobile decide where I live, where I go? This is the second time my dream house will be taken away from me. I have deprived myself and my kids for many things to maintain that property. And if any of you know, that property has been everything that we can do for Franklin Village, from maintenance, from landscaping, taking care of whatever needs to be taken care of on that street. Another thing is that the death and accidents that happen from our youth texting and driving has been in the rise. That stretch that you think is going to be covered, we don't need that. Our youth are driving, texting, and driving. Nevertheless, they can go without the signal. Enough, I've had people that I lost that are dear to me do texting and driving. Where do we stand? We can go a few seconds without connection. We can go few seconds without hearing an accident or a siren of somebody texting and driving. Why should T-Mobile decide my future? Why? I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Bashir Shama. I've been living in this beautiful community for about 7 years. I'm running for village council president, and I promise you that if I'm elected on my first day, I will drive result and drive a resolution for this problem that's been going on the entire 7 years I've been here. And not just that, I will drive results and drive solutions to all the other matters that we have, like losing power every single time we have a storm. Right? As well, I will drive solutions. I'll drive solutions and renegotiate all the contracts that we currently have. We are seeing our services decline, and we want to make sure that.
Sure. This
Excuse me?
isn't a political statement.
I understand. I'm within my 2 minutes. I reclaim my time.
Address the issue.
Yeah, I am addressing the issue and all other issues that I have. You know, I'm allowed for 2 minutes.
To
I
address
reclaim my
the
time.
accident.
I'm address this issue and all the other issues that we have on hand, right?
No.
There's so many issues for the last 7 years hasn't been accomplished. Nothing has been done for the last 7 years. We're tired.
If you'd like.
Me, the residents of this village are tired. We want change. We want solutions. Please, we want solutions. So wherever you are, you live in this residence, in this village, please vote for me because I will make sure to drive resolution and results. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So, Stuart Wooders, I live off Franklin Park Drive. So, over the last year or so, we've had the opportunity to address accident conversations. I think that Kathy's point that she brought up earlier with regards to the high gain directional antenna, potentially helping those along 13 Mile who will benefit most, makes the most sense to me, mostly because there are only 20 homes. Looking at the coverage map based on the study that was done for the location, elevation, tree density, there are only about 20 homes that would benefit from, because of the lot size in Franklin. I know that you don't get a big bang for your buck for each small cell location, but really the people that are benefiting are along 13 Mile. It seems like to minimize the potential of additional poles going down Franklin Park Drive, I'm not Franklin Park, 13 Mile, it would make sense to consider a high gain directional antenna that would benefit those that are driving along the road rather than the 20 homes that'll benefit from the current plan. So to me, it seems like there's options. I know that you might have a suite of options that you're allowing, that T-Mobile gives you as options. Maybe, I don't know what the options are that you're given, but it seems like a directional antenna would make more sense than a monopole or something that would give more of a rounded propagation path. So those are my thoughts.
My name's Hal Serwer. I live on Greenbrier near Woodside, and I might be not out of line, but maybe I'm ignorant here. If the young lady earlier said she has 400 signatures of people that don't want this and they have no problems with the service, why do we need the service? Is this something that's been repeated numerous times and I'm just late to the party? I'm not sure. But it seems to me it's a cure for some issue that we don't have. I'm not sure I understand everything, and maybe I'm a little thick. Is that the case? Or is it just, as the man before me said, is it just 20 people along 13 Mile? Because I know, and maybe I'm the renegade here, I have a T-Mobile little box in one of my rooms, and I get enough service through that, 3 laptops, 2 desktops, 4 televisions, and I don't have any problems. So, so I'm not sure what this is going to do for the people in the area and why it's necessary. So anybody's got an answer for that? Or is it just business? I don't know.
Okay.
Mark Ziso, 32695 Redfern, lived out here 60-plus years, dealt with no cell service, have a neighbor that needs cell service to live. Do these people that don't want this tower want to take that to their grave, that these people cannot have cell service? We need to start somewhere. My wife was almost died due to no cell service in that same area that I'm discussing. We're not even going to life safety of the people. We had a power outage for 4 days. You couldn't use your internet. How would you get EMS? Cell, maybe. But because of the internet being down, some of your cell service was down. We need to work together and bring cell service back to this village, make this village safe.
Okay, guys. Mark?
As I said, you
Mark?
only have that.
Mark,
Well,
please.
He has 52 seconds left if he wants to
Wow.
be at the podium.
Anybody else, comments? Oh, no more comments? Okay, I guess we're done with comments. Then.
No. No. We're back to this
Let's-
gentleman. We're back to this gentleman. God damn it.
Thank you. Let's start at the beginning. Let's say one thing about the whole. You know, we don't need coverage on 13 Mile Road in spots. You know, if there's a blank. If it's your 16-year-old kid who drove into the ditch in a thunderstorm, you want that kid to have cell coverage on 13 Mile Road without spaces. So that's a public safety consideration. That should be everybody in this room based on that. Okay. So that's synonymous with cell phone use. The vast majority of 911 calls are all cell phone. So with that said, that's the public safety issue. Let's try to go through some of the issues that were raised. I appreciate the work that this person did on this.
Dana, can we remove the timer off of there?
I'm not going to address it. So let me talk to it. But I'm not going to address moving that site. All right? First of all, it's not required under the Michigan Small Cell Act. There's no one in this room that's an RF engineer. The T-Mobile RF engineers designed this. Okay? The Small Cell Act does not allow you to design the system for a wireless carrier. And no one in this room has the expertise and the ability to do that. And no one on this council has the ability to do that. All right? The people who did this are looking at coverage, and they're looking at the broader picture of providing coverage in that area. All right. So with that said, the other thing too is one of the first people talked about the road commission. We've had several conversations with the road commission. The road commission actually met with the Exonet folks out of the site. Mr. Ludwig was also there when it came to moving this site. All right. The road commission does not have a dog in this fight. They don't care where this thing goes in the right of way. They will, if you prove this tonight, they will issue the permit this week. They've already had the application. They're waiting for the zoning authority, you guys, to provide that, and then they will issue the permit. They don't care whether it goes, like someone said, 1,000 feet down the road or not, as long as it meets their requirements. This meets their requirements where it sits right now. I think that's it. Would you folks have any other questions for me?
Can you address
I
his
mean,
complaint, his concerns about the box?
I'm of the opinion that, you know, we spent a great deal of time on this, and we have been sensitive to the concerns of the people who live in the area. But we are restricted by law as to what we can do. Am I right?
Correct.
I mean, we don't really, and we've explained this to our constituents in the past, that as much as we want to hear from everybody, that we don't have the power to say, you can't do this, because you're going to do it anyway. Am I right? I mean,
we would prefer approval from the
I
body.
understand you'd prefer approval, but if we said no, what are the repercussions? I don't really know that we have the authority to just say,
The act was created for exact situations just like this, to be very candid. And I think Peter's looked at the act. So the act was designed because small cells are up close and personal to houses and things like that. All right, so the legislation, and not just Michigan, these small cell acts are literally all across the country now, because there are areas, such as Franklin, that are very difficult to put a tower in. All right, so these laws, these statutes were designed to facilitate wireless deployment in areas where they're sensitive. It's that simple. And, you know, that's why it has the 40-foot limit. It looks like a utility pole. What is else in Franklin? Utility poles. All right? So the act was done with the idea of being a compromise from a state point of view with dealing with multiple jurisdictions so that somebody can move ahead and deploy that infrastructure. And as I was talking to Chris during the, you know, I don't know how you can have 400 people sign a petition if it only affects 20 houses. So obviously we have some protest creep on the petition. So
Because you're going to put more poles around Franklin, and it was a comprehensive group
you don't know
to
that.
say we don't want them in Franklin.
I don't know that, and you don't know that.
Oh, I do.
Eventually, somebody are. But most of the stuff has gone, everything has gone in Franklin to this date, has gone on an existing pole. Everything. No one has set a new pole. This is the first new pole to provide coverage to a critical area that has come before you. Out of how many years? You were the leading jurisdiction in Michigan when it came to small cells back in the early 2000s. So since early 2000, when the small cells went along Franklin here, you have one request for a new pole. So I don't agree with your premise that you're swamped with them. This was the same argument.
That we're going to be. It's not that we are,
Well, he
that we're
just said-
going to be. That was my point, was that we're trying to preemptively make a point that we don't want more.
Well, that's not your choice. That's why that's
Speaking
what.
for 400 people, not for and myself.
Why don't you move the pole a little bit east, and then you have our blessings?
so it's been 20 years, and this is the first poll.
To my knowledge. And
I didn't know that.
And I live in the area, so, and I've dealt with you folks, you know, and Mr. Starren brought me in, I think, for your, I think 2017, whatever, when you were having the big look at it. Remember that? When you had the community?
Yeah.
I came in and presented the state of the wireless. John asked me to come in and talk to you folks about that. So,
All right, so we shouldn't be panicking like we're going to have a poll a year. We haven't had but one in 20.
Right.
But when Al spoke with them, Al, didn't they suggest to you that there might be one at Carroll and Wellington?
They were looking,
But there already is one at Carroll and Wellington.
No, that's Scenic in Wellington.
No.
There's not one at Carroll and Wellington, there's one at Scenic in Wellington right now.
they indicated that they were looking at two possible locations, but as soon as we pulled up to that intersection, he shook his head and he goes, "We're not going here. We're going to redesign it. This is not a good location for a
Good, good.
So he was thinking closer to 14 Mile Road maybe, but they had to go back and redesign it.
So I have one question. Earlier, you had mentioned that if we don't do something, or if we were to deny it, frankly, we'd have our head in the sand. But you also said or at least your position seems to be that you're not gonna negotiate with the community, right?
We've already moved it 3 times.
Sure, but was that with the input of the community? I know it was in reaction to it, but was there a forum held to have a dialogue like this where, at the end of the day, you all have the power, right? I think most of us on this side of the table understand there's very little that we can do, but my question is are we going to be hostage every single time? Or do we come up with alternatives? Do we have dialogues? Like, I haven't gotten any options in this entire conversation outside of this small node's going in and you guys can deal with it, or we can put a cell tower up and start to take out some of the smaller nodes. Is there any other alternative?
No, because you're not going to approve a large tower. We've been down that road for years, okay? That stake was put in the sand in 2000. The small cell piece of it is, there's not a lot of community involvement, to be honest with you, on the small cell side. All right? That's why they did this act. It was to take the community out of this. And it's, you know, you may not like hearing that, but the act provides that you can provide us an alternate location. We're the RF designers. We go where they want to go, right? They try to do a poll where they want to go. And that you, the community, the board, the council, planning commission, you have a right to provide an alternative location within 75 feet of the chosen location. That's the way the act is written. So, in deference to you, I do community meetings all the time where we talk to people about cell towers and stuff. We invite the neighborhood in, we talk to them and everything else. But that's not really the purpose of the small cell. It is to cover small, minute areas where, in most places, it's where the larger macro cell towers don't cover. It covers little spaces where they're not providing that blanket coverage. In Franklin, you're in a different boat. You've gone a different direction. So the only coverage you're going to get now, except that you may pick up from, you know, West Bloomfield or something like that, is from your small cells. And that's a decision you guys have made, and that's a decision that the carriers are living with, and that's a decision that they're working under.
And is that the reason that we have what I would call spotty coverage, that you drop calls as you drive through the village?
Absolutely.
Okay, and we've had a lot of discussion about that, and I would dare to say that most people want better coverage. That's the complaint we hear about most. As I walk around the community, people tell me that. Now, I don't know how many people would sign a petition to that effect, but we've had meetings about that.
And so I'm gonna ask just the pointed question, if we voted no tonight, what would happen?
I don't know. What I do is I'm not the litigation counsel. I don't sue anybody or anything like that. It would go back to Extenet. They would look at it. They would talk to T-Mobile, and they would decide and look at the record and decide what to do. And they would meet with litigation counsel, and you know, you would make those people very happy, okay? But in reality, I think you're ignoring state law if you do that. And I.
Can we talk like AT&T?
What would happen?
Yeah, we talk
Have
to
you
T-Mobile.
researched what would happen?
Yeah.
What happens to see if AT&T?
So let's talk to our lawyer. Let's hear from our lawyer.
No. We will go into closed session if we talk about legal things for attorney-client privilege.
Oh.
Otherwise, it's waiver.
I drafted a letter so we could go into closed session. I do have one copy of it here. But we can discuss it in closed session.
I would like to.
Yeah, we can do that whenever you guys are ready.
Okay.
I would like to.
Yep, same with me.
Let's go into closed session and talk about it.
Are we okay
Do
with
you want to
that?
do it? Anybody want to talk first? Should we get any other
Do we,
voices?
we've had, no, we've heard, public comments over. We're done.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not address yours. I apologize. I apologize.
By the way, I'm not, the box is not a problem. I'm not there, I'm not complaining about the box, it's flush with the ground, it's like any other utility thing, right? It's just a matter of, it looks like it's done.
There are numerous fiber backbones throughout Franklin, okay? And that's underground. So what you saw them was putting underground fiber in there, all right? I have no information that says it was done to support the other one. Extenet is working on upgrading their fiber all around West Bloomfield, Bloomfield Hills, and everything else right now. So I
wasn't aware Extenet was doing other stuff.
Yeah, I don't have enough information
Because the gentleman
to
was
tell.
doing the project.
Said it was for
the
Extenet,
supervisor
and it's
said, I'm doing this for Extenet.
and it's very possible. And there's fiber upgrades going on all around all the cities in this area right now that Extenet covers.
I make a motion that we go into closed session.
Is there a second?
Sorry.
Your purpose is? To
discuss the legal
ramifications.
Sorry, he made the motion.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's a roll call. Sorry. Roll call.
Can I ask one question?
No.
Why not? Why not? Yeah, of course.
Could we just go to T-Mobile since they don't have control and they can only move it 50 feet? And they don't know why?
You said 75 feet.
Or what, okay, 75 feet, but they don't know why T-Mobile wants it in that spot? Is there any way we can go appeal to them and say, can you get coverage if you were 150 feet down? We haven't done that. I didn't know that was even, I thought it was up to them.
What was you gonna?
I don't recall, we've talked to all the carriers over the time, and, you know, I get,
Bill, he said he can move it 75 feet. Let's get it out of the entrance of our subdivision.
I hear you. What I'm trying to tell you is these guys have been super cooperative so far. You know, they've moved the
They haven't
thing.
changed their position one bit.
They-
We
yeah,
came up
they
with a
have.
plan to move the pole closer between Roberts and Inkster.
Equidistant.
So I don't get why it's so close to Inkster and right in the middle of our subdivision going in and out of our street. He said we can move it 75 feet. That's a start. Get it out of the entrance and egress of our street. That's all we're
But it
saying.
goes into
He said it
my-
can be done. He doesn't live there. All these people live there.
Okay, well,
Woodside
okay.
and 13. That's why we're here.
Can that be done, sir? Sir, can that be done, what Randy has said, moving it 75 feet? Would that placate our community and work for
No,
you?
it wouldn't placate the community.
No, I think the people 75 feet down the road have the same issue.
I don't know if you'll play You have the right as a jurisdiction.
Look what they were doing.
You have the right as a jurisdiction to suggest an alternative.
Right.
And that alternative has to be within 75 feet. If you want to do that, then I think you have to do a motion that says,
Right.
we want a 75-foot thing evaluated. But I will tell you that I'm not so sure how much that buys you. You have a big tree at the entranceway right now to the sud. You know, the pole is actually going to be on the 13-mile side of that tree. So no one in that subdivision is going to see that pole other than when they pull in or pull out.
I have 20
Okay, we gotta keep moving here. So, folks, we've got.
So,
yeah.
wait, Mark has some thoughts.
If you're going into closed session.
Wait,
Well, hold on.
stop.
Bill, take control. So, I'm not in favor of closed session. We want to make sure we're as transparent as possible. It's clear to me how the law is written. I've seen the letter from the attorney about what it says. I don't need to go to closed session. I'd rather, you know, be open, be transparent with everyone here. I do not need to go to closed session. It's going to give the impression that we're hiding something. I don't need that, frankly. I'd rather be open and not have to go to closed session.
I don't understand the purpose of closed session. Can someone explain it
All
to
right,
me?
I'll withdraw the motion.
I'm just curious as to why.
To explain to you, Kathy, what I was
We have to
saying.
explain that?
No, it's
I'd love
fine.
to know why. I
It's-
don't understand why.
It's
I don't
fine.
think
Do you
it's
understand,
David
you
tell
understand
you.
what closed session is?
I don't understand why
Let
it's
David-
necessary.
Let David tell you.
I'd love to.
Okay?
Okay,
David?
so we are an entity, right, like the governmental entity that sits right here. We are the client of Peter. Peter is the attorney. We're asking him to to essentially tell us what are the legal implications, ramifications, probabilities of the decision that we make. So anything that he were to give as an opinion, if we then subsequently got sued, would say that we were aware of what the legal implications were, right? Or that we were essentially providing a legal analysis that the other attorneys would point to show. And so you're basically bare, right? And so by moving into closed session, you're preserving attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the client so that that discussion is not used against us in making our decision.
So David?
Is that
David,
appreciated by everyone?
But Peter has sent us a letter clarifying.
Where?
Where?
I just emailed you guys a copy of the letter. And
I don't know my computer or my phone.
Well, here, Kathy.
I have a copy of it here, but it's subject to attorney-client privilege.
So we aren't discussing it.
Yeah, and, you know, if we go into closed session, sometimes I show our weaknesses, sometimes I show our strength. And I prefer that my opinion as to this issue, because we are facing litigation, would be subject to attorney-client privilege and not disclosed to everybody. So it is entirely up to you, whether you guys go in closed session or not, but that would be the purpose of the closed session, is to discuss confidential matters that are between attorney and client, just like everyone else has that right when you go discuss with your attorney.
I would defer to our two attorneys here. I made a motion, then I withdrew it. I can make it again, but I do have the letter here. What are your thoughts?
I mean, again, my personal opinion is if, I'm interested in I don't have my email available to me. Then let's leave it to open session, because I don't want to.
Here, then it's in the public, so.
Yeah.
No, I don't,
No,
actually.
he's right. I don't want it weaponized against us by trying to do the right thing, and not potentially subjecting us to the taxpayers to needless expenses, which is why I would want to go into closed session. At the same time, I don't want it to be weaponized against us as we were trying to not be transparent. Through this entire process, I think we've done the best that we can to be transparent. At the end of the day, like, we can go back and forth on the reason that ExteNet's putting it up. It's not to help our community, it's a bottom line, it's numbers, it's business, right? And like, I think just putting the cards on the table, it is. There's no way that it's like, for the good of our hearts, we want people to have cell service. It's a money business. And that's fine, right? And that was supported by the state.
And so is an ambulance. An ambulance is a money business, okay? There's a lot of money businesses that serve the community.
But my point is we can posture it however we want. The important thing here is that it is about money. The willingness to negotiate is 75 feet. You guys have made that clear.
I'll make you a deal, all right? I'll move the table this thing for 1 month, subject to the fact is that we evaluate an alternative location within 75 feet of where the existing pole is proposed. And then if that is, we come back and say, there is no good location because of whatever is there, then I want that up or down vote.
Can I ask a question? Is there a reason that, Robert, that yellow dot couldn't be a possibility? That idea of that yellow dot that's right there where it's actually been looked at by people to say that there aren't that many houses, it's not that yellow dot right on 13, instead of just 75 feet, one way or the other, going a little further, is that a possibility? Because that's a spot where it makes more sense.
It makes more sense and it connects the network
As you go
within the
along 13
1,000.
mile, the elevation drops dramatically. There's a 60-foot difference between the red
It's the
dot
same
and the yellow dot.
altitude, it's the same, it drops and comes back up, it's the same altitude.
Doesn't come back as high.
It's the same altitude.
What's your gavel?
It's right here, you've got, the yellow pin is
Still.
245
Okay,
and the other
okay,
side is 245.
okay.
So that's just the
Wait,
question, I'm just asking,
Well,
instead of 75 feet,
The
you're saying you're
gentleman
willing.
has made an offer to
I-
push
I-
this off a month.
I'm
And
asking
to
the
evaluate.
gentleman, instead of us coming up with a new spot, could you just consider that spot? Is there a reason that spot is not possible?
I don't do the design. I don't know the answer to that. I will tell you that the reason it is at where it's at is because of the T-Mobile design by their RF engineers.
Ask them.
We can ask, all right? But the answer is probably going to be, this is our design, and we want it there. We're not privy to all the details of how their stuff interacts with everything else.
But you're
So
willing to ask?
We will ask.
Would you ask?
Okay.
That would be great.
Let's-
I will ask.
How about we leave
That
it
would be
let's
terrific. If you
just
would ask for
table
that
it.
spot,
Table
that
it.
would be great.
for 30 days?
I will ask, and for 30 days, all right? And we will go back to, we'll do two things.
Okay.
We'll evaluate the,
Quiet, guys.
You guys,
Quiet, okay?
we'll evaluate the 75-foot that you guys, I think, have it under your powers, according to the law.
Yep.
Okay, we'll evaluate the 75 feet. And we will also go to T-Mobile and ask them if there is another location along there that would work for them, that would not be as close to some of the houses and stuff.
Can you specifically ask for that spot?
No,
Is there a
well,
reason that you
I
can't?
will, yes, if the person who did this gives me a copy of this, we will ask that
Thank you.
specific question.
Thank you. That's what we're asking. She has it. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
I will do it.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. All right, do we need,
But now we're at 4 times moving this thing.
well,
Okay, we appreciate you. Thank you.
let's see how that comes back at next month's meeting, and then we'll give you the up or down vote.
That's what I will.
Is that fair?
Enough.
Okay.
My experience with T-Mobile in other municipalities is, they have their bureaucratic machine, it takes a little while longer. Was a month enough?
A month is enough.
Okay.
A month.
Okay.
Perfect.
A month is enough.
so
They're my biggest
I
client.
don't know that we need a motion, let's just,
No. Table?
so table it,
Table it.
We'll
We're
see you
gonna
next
table
month.
it.
You have the, you have the stuff.
okay?
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
very
Thanks for
good.
listening.
Everybody.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, next item, the new contract for the police chief.
Everybody.
Guys, can you hold it down out there if you want to
Please.
talk? There's plenty of room outside, so.
Bill, why don't you give him a minute?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the best outcome.
That was the best outcome we could have, given the letter that we have
Right,
from our attorney.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
See ya. Okay, we ready?
Yes.
Can you address the,
We have to wait to do that. We have to.
Okay, so,
They're-
under,
Let them go.
we're gonna. Yeah.
Norma, you gotta go.
No.
okay, who's the expert on this one? The police chief
new
contract, who can explain it?
We're just gonna consider the new contract.
What,
The
contract that you now have?
For the police chief, correct.
Can we be quiet, very quiet in the hall? Thank you.
Using the existing contract as the foundation for the discussion, Kurt and I went through it and talked about each of the items that were in there. There were a couple of things that he pushed me on a little bit that I wanted to suggest that were okay. The salary is, I think, around 110. And I believe that the contract, all in all, is very fair. If you had specific questions about that?
Do we have any questions?
I only have one. And it's more just like a technical question. So in the section of duties where it talks about his functions and is prescribed by the village charter, the codified ordinances, isn't the chief subject to a CBA? Do we have to reference that it's also that he has to be bound by, do we have a collectively bargained agreement with the police department?
We have command officers and patrol officers that are in collective bargaining agreements.
Gotcha, the chief is not part of the CBA?
No, sir.
That answers the question.
So, question, do we have copies? Because we don't have these copies in our book.
Well, so
You
we,
got you got an email
yeah,
late
they got
today
emailed late.
Oh, okay.
Here, if you
Yeah,
wanna see it.
from Dana.
So I can-
And Meg's is almost identical.
Makes it
except-
very similar.
Yeah.
Right.
Couple specific change references.
I
So do we
motion
re-
to approve.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. How about the village administrator's contract?
Motion to approve.
I second.
I only have one comment. So when I read when I'm reading section 12 about the various vacation pay, and then I looked at the chiefs, it seems like the word per year fell out, and it's not very clear. And I understand 15 the first year, but every time where it says paid vacation days, if I look at the chief's contract in that same spot, it says per year, right? That's an annual vacation amount that goes up as.
That's correct,
per
and that would be
tenure
that would be the
increases.
case for the administrator's contract, but there were some provisions for increasing the amount that the individual would earn on an annual basis.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was
So-
more for her benefit, that it was clear that these were annual, that
That's
she got
correct.
those
Right.
off annually. Okay, that was it. That was all I had.
Okay, is there a motion to?
I made a motion to approve.
And we got a second?
We do.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
we can skip the next one.
No,
I just want to
I
comment on the
have-
fact that I think it's a little bad form that I don't have, that nobody, that only a few of us.
I have a,
I'm annoyed by that.
I have a proxy.
I know, but I didn't look at
The whole
it
council before the meeting, so.
right before the meeting, but if
Right.
someone was working
Right.
and seeing patients and they didn't have access to their computer to
Right.
look at it,
Right.
you can't be expected, it's supposed to be in the packet. So that's the only thing I'm
Right.
annoyed by.
Noted.
Thank you.
Well, I have, but Kathy has a perfect good point. Of all the things, we have 5 items on new business. There's only 1 item in the package.
Right.
So, the reason why we get these, especially for new business, on the Friday is so we can read it.
Right.
You agree?
And
So-
there's Nothing to read, yeah, I agree.
So, can we fix every time for new business, all items are in the package?
Indeed,
Okay.
Thank
for as long as I'm here.
So I have a proclamation here in recognition of service for President Lamont, who is departing us after many years of service, and I'd like to read it. Whereas William Bill Lamont was elected to serve a 4-year term as Franklin Village President in November 2020, and whereas Bill Lamont served as a village trustee from 2004 to 2011, and again from 2018 to 2020, whereas Bill Lamont has a compelling interest in the preservation of Franklin's history, which has been demonstrated by his ongoing commitment to the Franklin Historical Society, the development and operation of the Franklin Museum, preservation of Franklin's Historic District, his participation in the preservation and relocation of the Krieger Farmhouse, barn, and corn crib, served as an appointee to the Historic District Commission in 2002, and with his wife Ann, work on various hands-on projects, including the annual Halloween scarecrows and maintenance of the unique street name signs in the Historic District. And whereas President Bill Lamont has worked to assure the village's limited financial resources have been used to optimize police, code enforcement, and building services for the community, therefore be it resolved, the Franklin Village Board of Trustees hereby expresses its appreciation for the leadership provided during the past 4 years by President Bill Lamont and wishes for Bill continued involvement in the historic preservation of this unique community.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for.
Well, I will say that while Bill and I have not always agreed and seen eye to eye, I do appreciate sincerely his devotion and dedication to our community. We share that love of Franklin, and I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to.
You want to say something?
Well, I did want to say something, also, we
Yeah.
technically are supposed to approve that resolution, because I think we should, but, Bill, I also want to thank you for, at least the time and dedication you've given to the village council, having worked side by side with you, underneath you, with you on committees. Again, whether we've ever always come to agreement on issues, I think we've come to agreement on more than we haven't. And my respect for you is immense, and I hope that you will at least continue with your historic endeavors in the village, you and your wife Ann's dedication to our historic history and our historic commitment is unprecedented. And I too thank you for that, and that's it. You're a good man.
And I guess we should adopt the proclamation.
Yeah. Yes.
So I make a motion to
I second
adopt
the
the
motion.
proclamation. I need a second.
David second.
Nobody
David
wants to
second,
say.
all in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, we have a planning commission referring an issue to the planning commission
So, let me
regarding,
give you some background on, let me give the background on
Okay.
this. So these were things that, two items that I brought up in legal, and when the word considered it used is not to take action today, with the exception of referring this to the planning commission if we think that it's something that should be looked into. The first one, which is item D. I think with the fence ordinance and some current existing situations going on there, and from the last few ordinances having been involved in, whether it was lighting, open burning, fences, even when we were doing signs. And when you read through the ordinances, there are occasional recognitions and carve-outs for the historic district, which is essentially our 4 lots, I believe. So what the question was, should we be having the planning commission look at the ordinances, particularly the ordinances which involve setbacks, and determine whether or not there are sections in the ordinance or ordinances that we should have different rules for the R4 lots, and what goes on there with somebody who has a 60-foot wide lot and 10-foot setbacks on each side, and setback, which have just created these minute envelopes, and whether or not there are sections of ordinances where the historic district or the R4 lots should get different consideration. When we did burning, half the discussion is, well, what about the historic? What about the historic? Because we all were pretty comfortable that what goes on in a 100-foot wide lot, 150, 300-foot wide lot is a lot different than what goes on in a 60-foot wide lot. So there wasn't tons of context, in the exception of, I know fences and the burning ordinance,
auxiliary buildings, yeah.
accessory structures, all of those things. Have we properly addressed those residents, and have we really impinged their ability to use their lots because we're putting standards that we have on our larger lots on them? So it was more of a generic thing, I don't know, I mean, you guys are busy, but the question was, is it something worth investigating?
Yeah, and understanding when this came up 2 years ago. That's really compromise between small lots and large lots. I think it is worthy. I mean, to have the planning commission look at it.
So that was
I'm in
the
support of it.
purpose of D. And then the purpose of E is a little more very specific to the ordinance, one specific section, specific to a resident who's been here several times on other items, has complained about this item, he's called on a neighbor, and we've all seen some of these change of emails. We saw Don, our code enforcement officer's response. I personally don't agree with that response. And when I've gone through the burn ordinance, we were very careful when we redid that. It's very clear that if you want to burn on your property, anything you want to burn on your property, you can do it. You just need to go tell the police, the fire department, get a simple permit, it was like just like a little piece of paper, so that they know what's going on, and if they choose to check up on you, that you're following the rules. And we have a section in there that talks about a bonfire. And it says a bonfire doesn't need a permit, but it's supposed to be around a civic event. And in this specific resident situation, we've advised the resident that his neighbor doesn't need a permit because he has a bonfire. So, first of all, when I read the definition of bonfire, it shouldn't even be on private property at all, and I would flat out say it should only be on public property with the exception of, there's, the FCA, who would probably be the one place where a bonfire would actually happen. It's supposed to be designed around a civic event. You don't have a bonfire in your backyard by yourself, that's burning.
You could have a bonfire in your backyard.
Okay, if it was around a social event, so if you had guests over and you were, but then we need to look at the definition of a bonfire. So if you're having a bonfire, does that mean you can now burn things other than leaves?
So,
Right, so-
I
Can't even
remember
burn
when this
leaves
came,
with a
I remember
bonfire.
this came up
Right.
to, and I remember asking that exact question.
You did.
That exact question
absolutely
about
did.
it. And, and that.
And we write
that ambiguity is
ordinances.
still here, so 2 years later, so I support this and.
Absolutely, that's
If-
why we
if
adopt
our-
ordinances, we see how they act, then we see how they, how
It's
they
worth the
work.
adjustment.
And
We're
then
being
when
called
people,
out
correct,
for the
so
same
I
duty.
think we need to clarify what is a bonfire, and that it's definitely not going on somebody's backyard in lieu, and the pictures that the resident sent of his neighbor, it's in an enclosed structure even, it isn't even just on the ground. And it's not super high, and it doesn't look like it's material other than what you're permitted. But why are we telling the neighbor that the guy can do it without a permit? He did need a permit. He needed to,
You don't need a permit for an enclosed fire.
no, that's recreational fires. Recreational fires is your little fire pit and the fire's going this high, not when the fire's going
Right.
to the ceiling, which the pictures that we have are.
This one,
It was-
neighbor, he's exploiting this ambiguity, this loophole.
Correct.
Deserves further looking at it.
Because
and
he put it
seems
in a
to-
contained area, he now wants to call it something that it isn't and say, I can do it without
So,
being accountable.
I
And I'm not
think this
comfortable
should
with
be
that.
moved to the planning commission, let's add
So those are the
that.
two purposes of that, nothing that we were gonna do today, that's why there's really nothing in the packet for it, it was just a explanation,
Yeah.
give Stuart and his people more work, sorry.
But I think this is worthy of,
Yeah, I agree.
So are you
Well-
looking for better definitions
Yeah.
of a bonfire
In the
and?
bonfire one, yes, it's really just bonfire, because if you read the ordinance is very clear about what you need to do if you wanna burn on your property. And then it says you can have a bonfire, I mean, here, I pulled it, I mean.
So should we have a height?
well.
Well, we went through
that's
that
what planning
before,
commission was.
Yeah,
we
let
went
us-
through all those issues before when we approved the ordinance.
Nope.
We did a carve out for, bonfires and campfires, which are to be used in conjunction with civic, social, or athletic events are allowed without a permit.
Right.
Right. So that.
So this
that's-
resident in the background doesn't fit any of those three things.
To me, if you wanted to have a bonfire on your property and have a bunch of guests over, I still think you should have to tell the chief and he should be able to come and take a look at
It's
it.
not a civic event,
If it's in the middle of the FCA property or in the middle of the village green and it's part of a civic event and we're overseeing it, or would still be overseen, I'm sure, by the police department and the fire department and all those things. So I just don't want us advising residents that their neighbor is doing something that's a bonfire
I agree.
as a carve-out when they're not, to
So
avoid following the
I
ordinance.
support recommending to planning commission and giving planning commission and the council and a code enforcement officer greater clarity. Because it seems like we're exploiting ambiguities and
Is
loopholes
that,
right now.
is that a motion?
Do you no, we need a motion, but
So-
do you understand what?
Yeah, let
the
me,
issue
do
is?
you mind if I ask some questions for clarity, just to make sure? So I saw this on the agenda, and I had to go back in history, because it's been since April of 2023 that it was sent back to planning, right? And so, when I looked through our agenda in planning, our last action was for McKenna to provide us a memo, updating based on some feedback that Chairman Goldberg was sending to us. So I don't know where the momentum disappeared on this. I reached out to Chris Dusen to bring back the memo that you had previously sent, and asked for it to be on our agenda for this month, because I don't know where it came from, I don't know where it lost its steam, but it did, obviously. And I think, it sounds like it's, it's recurring, and it's a concern for our neighbor, the individual you're talking about. And last fall, I don't know if they repeated the same inquiry last fall as well. It sounds like a fall-type situation for that neighbor, that's recurring. So we can take it, but the questions I have though, is just a point of clarity. We had an ordinance that we had sent to council. It was reviewed. You had gone through several revisions on that ordinance, right? And then you sent it back to planning, with regards to some updates and definitions and terminology, correct? In April of 2023.
We're talking about
So
the
what we're
fire
asking,
burning ordinance?
Burning ordinance.
Yeah.
what we're asking Stuart, have the plan commission focus on the definition of bonfire, the usage, and give the code, this person.
For just the existing ordinance, so.
Yes, don't have to redo the whole thing.
Don't go through the, okay.
Focus on the bonfire portion of it.
The ordinance is a
clarify
good
that.
ordinance. We adopted the ordinance already.
It's not the current one on the website.
Yeah, I just printed this off the website.
May I look at it? What you
Yeah.
printed? Sorry.
You're good.
I'm getting confused now.
Or, yeah, I printed that off the website.
Okay, so this is the more simplified, okay, yes, this is the one. Never mind. Okay, yes. So just focus on the bonfire portion.
Well, I do just want to clarify that if you look at the definitions there, the reason I borrowed it was you're walking a real difficult line, because if you look at recreational fire, I just want to, again, provide that the language says recreational fire and fires for food preparation on private property utilized in conjunction with barbecue grills and cooking receptacles are allowed without a permit. So you're balancing a definition that
So then-
between.
The purpose.
So then maybe a look at the definition of recreational fire
Correct.
also
Right,
needs to be
'cause
looked
we-
at.
Correct.
Because we.
So that has a capacity to it. And then again, I think the intent was fire pits.
Yeah.
Right,
And using a fire pit for its specific purpose, which is to make a fire to sit around and hang out, and whether you make marshmallows or you're just sitting around chatting, that fire is usually not
It's not
raised
causing
to
a
the
police
ceiling,
complaint,
and it doesn't
right?
have, it's
Right.
not, designing to get rid of a certain material, it's designed to create an ambiance.
Right.
And that's maybe the fine line that has to be created, so that there is a distinction when somebody's trying to do one.
Size, maybe size.
well, right, the challenge
Could be.
because the challenge you run into is like, okay, when you're creating a fire, you need to have fuel for that fire. So where do you get the fuel from? A lot of times people get it from their yard, from down trees, from over the spring or the fall, or wherever that may be. And so the question then is, how much fuel can they use to make a bonfire
Maybe
versus?
just the diameter, maybe just the
You're
diameter
missing,
of
you're
the
missing the
pit.
point.
I just
You're
want to
missing the point.
understand.
Complexity.
No,
I
no,
just don't
you're missing the
understand.
point. The
Okay.
point is, if you read that section of the ordinance, it says a bonfire doesn't need a permit.
Right,
Everything else we're doing needs a permit. So I'm trying to avoid using that as a carve-out, to avoid having to tell the fire department that you're making a fire. So if we need to get rid of bonfires altogether, fine. I haven't seen a bonfire in the village at a civic event since I've lived here in 20-some years.
Right.
So if anything, then just say get rid of bonfires. Or say if you're gonna have a bonfire, you need to have a permit. But you can't have this non-permitted carve-out where somebody could claim they're doing that to avoid permitting.
Why do we need to say-
That's what we're trying to avoid.
why do we need to use the word bonfire anyway then?
Thank you.
That might be the right solution.
Okay,
could be
so,
the solution.
so that's what I'm wondering, because I want to understand.
The context is strictly bonfires, and how a bonfire is different than a regular fire, and why we would let someone do that without permission, without being permitted.
Right, so
And maybe there was a flaw.
in keeping
Maybe we
with.
missed that.
Right,
It was-
well-
Everything should be
But
permitted.
again, if it was a certain diameter, you could use that maybe to contain the fire versus it being like, we could have a very large contained fire. It could be small.
Kathy, I don't want anybody burning anything on their property in their backyard without the fire department knowing that it's going on, if it's gonna be in some capacity that it's large. That's the whole reason we have an ordinance. It says you have to have a permit for any fire you're doing other than cooking in a grill or putting it in a,
So,
and again, what I thought of a recreational fire was,
So again,
But
can
that's
I
the
ask
question.
a,
You
can I
have to
ask a
differentiate a recreational
logistical,
fire.
like a technical question? If we got rid of the section, the subsection that 307.2.2.1, which says campfires and bonfires which are used in conjunction with civic and social aesthetic events are allowed without a permit, could the FCA, for instance, if we got rid of that entirely, come to us with request for a permit? And could we grant it, or do we need an ordinance in order to grant the permit
I
allowing
don't
it?
think we need an ordinance.
I think you can allow it, but you can't go against your ordinance.
Correct.
Okay,
That's
so
what
then my recommendation for what you all should do is strike that section entirely, focus on 307.2.2, which is the recreational fires, add a definition for recreational fires, but logistically, I do think we're oversimplifying how you define what a recreational fire is, because this guy had a receptacle, right? It was inside of the containment, and it was just too high, so now we're regulating the height, like, I get the logistical difficulty, but that's for you guys to research.
we don't
Tara.
need
David, what
you
you're
don't need
missing
to
is, I'm
work
not
this
saying
out.
he can't do it, the question is, why can he do it without a permit?
let's,
No, because
let's-
I want to have a fire in my backyard and not have to get a permit.
Right.
So the
I'm not
question,
saying-
I
Totally
understand,
agree
the
with you.
threshold
Right.
is difficult.
David, we do not need
let's-
cells now. All we're
We'll
asking
do
is
it for the
refer
planning
to,
commission, right? We'll do it for the
refer
planning commission.
to.
Let's let the
planning
planning
commission.
commission go ahead.
Right,
So
so,
we have-
understood.
Yeah, so
That's
now
all we're
maybe
doing
the
here.
better thing is, because that's a good suggestion of David's, we don't even have bonfires. If someone wants to have a bonfire, they can always ask for it, and we can grant permission to do it. So think about striking that section and think about better defining the term, what is a recreational fire?
I like that.
So-
That's
Isn't
good.
it really
Understood.
the size of the fire? A small fire is okay, a big fire, you need a permit.
I agree, it's a
So
size.
So for
define
that
small
instance,
versus a big.
Yes,
I don't know.
we,
Okay,
we
yeah.
didn't want,
We'll-
we didn't want,
we'll-
hold
we'll-
on, time out. We didn't want to regulate heights of fires before, because we were getting into the, should it be under a big tree or not under a big tree?
Yeah.
And we're like, forget that, you gotta use common sense for that. But if we're trying to define something between whether it's permittable or not permittable, yes, I
Without a
think we
permit.
could use size in that
There
instance.
you go, yeah.
So
Okay.
let's,
So-
Yeah, we'll,
That's what planning
back.
commission do with
Okay.
the.
we'll take that on. I mean,
You can't cook
there is,
marshmallows up here.
well, you can.
You can,
well,
but you better be back. And if
You'll be
that's the
back
case-
because you'll need a
That's
pole
the
that's
case.
like.
If it's a fire that big, it should,
I-
someone should know what's going on.
I get it, and you know, other communities have to deal with this as well, regardless of whether or not it's a small fire or a large fire, some communities require permitting. And regardless of the use case, right, so those are things that we have to consider. Because you know, just for your information, the Scouts retire flags on the FCA property, and we do it inside of a container, which is how we conserve it. Now, not everyone has the same common sense, so what we're trying to do is help with that common sense.
When do you do that, by the way? That should.
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
1699,
Yep.
every Memorial Day.
Every Memorial Day, we retire flags. It's
Taking them to the, one of the lodges.
No, 1699.
we do it. There's also a flag retirement booth at Seaholm High School in the very back. You can drop your flag off there. We collect them from there as well.
Okay.
But anyway, that is one of the reverent ways that we also participate in this activity. So I know it's not related to my position in Planning Commission, but I do support that activity, and so
You want to be able to do
I
that.
want to be open as to what I would want to try and protect.
Yeah.
That's not what we call it.
So there's two issues, just so we agree, there's two issues that planning commission's gonna take up, and one is
So-
different rules for historic district R4 lots and the burn ordinance.
So I wanted to follow up a question on that one, if that's okay, for the lots and different rules. So yes, we do have, some ordinance do a better job than others with regards to how we maintain lots. So for example, accessory buildings, I think, David, you were aware during that, not Sally, but Goldberg, Trustee Goldberg, when we did the ordinance for accessory buildings, that there are carve-outs for certain numbers, as well as setbacks were different as well for the R4. So we look into it, so I guess what I want to understand is the direction is, across all the ordinances, anytime that there's a carve-out for spacing or distances, we want to make sure that the R4 district is at least represented. in those ordinances. Is that what you're asking?
I think if you go back and look at the ZBA stuff for the last year, it'll be very clear what the issues are.
Okay.
And it's mostly setbacks.
Setback issue.
Right.
And if we're getting to the point where our ZBA is just continually, that's what
That's
our
what
job
they're
as
saying.
legislatures. If the ZBA is continually to do things and using that as the mechanism, then maybe we as a legislature need to look at the underlying law
Okay.
itself.
And you need to coordinate with the Historic District Commission, because they know what the issues are.
Yeah, that would be.
And we're trying to make the
Pam's
job
our
easy.
liaison, so Pam is the one who's at every HDC meeting.
Perfect. And, yeah, okay, good.
Stuart,
Yes.
what right now is the planning commission's top 3 priorities?
We have the ordinance for cell tower. We have the, sorry, I've got to open it up again.
You're okay.
This is why I write things down.
Good.
No, okay, yeah, so then we have pathways considerations, and then also the sign amendment ordinance, which is also, but, I mean, as far as the docket goes and adding these to the docket, I'm not concerned about.
Okay.
I'm not concerned about that, so.
Because, yeah, I just don't want to lose momentum on those other things.
No, that makes sense, though. I mean, yeah, no, those, I think, yep, I think they will be okay with that.
Okay.
Okay. I think we're good. We got all the issues covered. Meeting's adjourned.